Farage Show.
Good morning, everybody. Well, for once, it's not Brexit that is dominating the national debate in this country. It's all been sparked off, of course, by 19-year-old Shamima Begum, who, if you remember, left this country, aged 15 years old, went off, married into ISIS, has become a devotee of ISIS, and now, heavily pregnant, she wants to come back to this country, have her child born here. So the debate has been, should we allow her back into the country or not? Now, I have to say, for years, I've been making the argument that if people go and join ISIS, they effectively become our own sworn enemies, and I believe we shouldn't let any of them back. I believe we should take away their passports. The trouble is, that does somewhat contravene international law, which says you can't make people stateless. But then, if they've joined Islamic State, surely that's the state that they've chosen. That's the view that I've always taken, and I am horrified that 400, an estimated 400 ISIS fighters, people that have been brutalised in every way, are now back living in this country. Only 40 of them have actually been detained in any way at all. The other 360 are walking maybe down your street right now as we speak. So my instincts say to me, we don't want Shamima Begum back in this country. The response from the government has been, well, about as efficient as the way they've dealt with Brexit. You know, we begin with statements from ministers saying, well, we're not going to go out and send a search party to bring people back, but if they arrive here, they've got a right to come back. Then we get Sajid Javid, the Home Secretary, standing up and saying, we will not hesitate to prevent your return. So Sajid Javid clearly limbering up to become a Tory leadership contestant at some point in time, saying what the public want to hear. And by the way, it is what the public want to hear, because a Sky Data poll on this Shamima Begum case last week showed over 75% of people don't want her coming back into the country. But then, of course, David Gauke says, the UK Justice Secretary, that we can't make people stateless. Number 10 says pretty much the same, as indeed does Labour's Diane Abbott, who says we are not in favour of making people stateless. And if they come back to this country, they should be fully investigated and, where appropriate, prosecuted. Now, the other reason why, and you may say to me, well, Nigel, you're being really pretty hard-hearted about all of this. She's only 19. She's heavily pregnant. It is the complete lack of remorse in any way at all. I mean, she says she doesn't regret going. She talks about seeing a beheaded head in a bin. And it belonged to somebody who'd been captured, an enemy of Islam, who'd been captured on the battlefield. She said it didn't faze me at all. She makes it perfectly clear that she is still, ideologically, a signed-up supporter of ISIS. Why on earth would we want to have people like that coming back to live in British society? But Donald Trump has put his oar into this in a very, very big way overnight. Now, there is some good news here, and the good news is that the caliphate that ISIS was setting up, militarily, it is being beaten. They're down to a last one, really, stronghold. So, on the face of it, that's a good idea. And Trump, of course, has been very much keen for America to be involved in the military defeat of ISIS. But then Trump says this: the United States is asking Britain, France, Germany and other European allies to take back over 800 ISIS fighters that we captured in Syria and put them on trial. The caliphate is ready to fall. The alternative is not a good one, and we will be forced to release them. The US does not want these ISIS fighters to permeate Europe, which is where they're expected to go. We do so much and spend so much. Time for others to step up and do the job that they're capable of doing. Well, so Trump is saying, we've captured 800 of these people. They're from your countries in Europe. We are not going to take them to Guantanamo Bay. We don't want the responsibility of doing it. We feel we've done our bit as America to militarily defeat ISIS. But this is the problem. You can militarily defeat them, but you don't defeat the ideology by just taking back territory. So is Donald Trump right to say this? Well, let me know. if you think Trump is right, and it is our responsibility, we have to take these people back, call 0345 6060 973, or maybe you think you don't want these people anywhere near our country. It's their lookout. If they're stateless, then text to 84850 and ask me, are you on the left of politics and find yourself agreeing with Donald Trump, or perhaps on the right of politics and find yourself disagreeing with Donald Trump? Please tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC, and of course Facebookers. You can comment, watch us and comment there too. Butch is a new caller from Watford. Good morning, Butch.
Good morning, Nigel. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. So is Trump right? Is this our responsibility?
Well, I don't think so. I think anybody that supports any terrorist and aids and abets any terrorist organisation, they should actually forfeit their citizenship and become a citizen of whichever terror group they're supporting.
Yep. Well, Butch, listen, I agree with that. I've been saying that for years and years. And in fact, there is one thing the UK government can do, and the UK government can revoke citizenship. They can take away passports, invalidate passports,
I'm aware of that.
but only if people are dual nationals. All right? And so,
right.
Indeed, the European Court of Justice upheld this ruling. So there are 33 people who we have said, you're not entitled to a British passport anymore, but they had other citizenships. What we're not supposed to do, Butch, what we're not supposed to do under international law is to make people stateless. I'm with you.
I understand that. That's just my thought. But anybody that supports terrorist organizations, the legal age of a child is 10. She was 15 when she made the conscious decision to go and support, aid and abet a terrorist. So she's guilty of being a terrorist by means of association. That's how I see it.
Yes, you're right. The age of criminal responsibility in England and Wales is 10 years old, and you're right about that. And she even said, didn't she, I'm not a silly little 15-year-old anymore. I'm 19. Yeah. I know my views. Yeah. Here's the problem, Butch. Donald Trump is right for America. Why should America take these 800 people? And I completely get that.
I agree with you 100% on that.
So for him, I understand why he's saying what he's saying, and I get it. But here's maybe, Butch, the dilemma that you and I both face. We both feel the same way about this. We don't want these people coming back here. But if indeed, at the end of this war, these 800 are released, they could just sneak back into Europe anyway, couldn't they?
Yeah. Although, on the other side of the coin, if they do come back, then they should be tried and convicted and sentenced.
Butch, do you know what? The only circumstances in which I would say, OK, let's take back our quota, let's take back our fair share, is if I actually felt that this government was going to put them on trial and, if found guilty, put them in prison for a very, very long time. So far, of the 400 that have come back, only 40 have been detained. Butch, I thank you. Joe is a caller from Wimbledon. Good morning to you.
Yes, hello, good morning, Nigel. Despite, all our machinations and whatever else, there's no legal mechanism currently to stop her coming back here. I think it would also be quite difficult, and all these other 800, to get a successful prosecution because of evidence.
I know.
This all happened a long way away, somewhere else, in the middle of a place that is completely lawless. There's no mechanism where she is to prosecute her because people are saying she should be prosecuted there or in Iraq. They're lawless countries at the moment. She's in a refugee camp, They haven't got a functioning government actually they have. Well, I wouldn't call it functioning, but there's no mechanism to do that where she is. Nothing to stop her coming back here. If I was in her position, I wouldn't want to be there a second longer than I had to be. She's shown absolutely no remorse.
None, no.
And it's like all very barefaced, but she will breeze back in here. Watch her do it.
Joe, your point about evidence is a very well-made one. It's going to be difficult, actually, to prosecute many of these people.
Almost impossible. Plus the fact that if she doesn't have this dual nationality, then they can't strip her of one of these, which is, British citizenship. I think even though they can't do this retrospectively, they need to now, and I know they don't want to because it's a huge hot potato and they're going to get all sorts of, yogurt knitters and warriors, wanting the human, to throw the human rights element, which is valid, the human rights element of all of this. But, at the same time, they need to start working on some legislation, not just two pennyworths, like, Sajid Javid standing up and saying, I'll do this and I'll do that. You can't do anything under the current law as it stands, and you should know that. But they need to start now working on some legislation that makes it possible for them to be able to do something an awful lot more proactive than throw their hands up, make lots of noises, and she'll breathe back in anyway, because there's no legal mechanism to stop her.
We've already got 360 of these people walking our streets freely. I would guess many of them are under surveillance of some kind, but it's a heck of a risk to our society. Joe, I thank you. You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show here at LBC, and it is 10:15.
This is LBC.
So much confusion, especially when it comes to comparing car insurance. Especially who to listen to, what to believe. Where should we look? Is it a deal? Is it real? Of course, there's a simpler way. One website that can make it crystal clear. Someone to calmly, simply show you the way when it comes to car insurance. Don't be confused. BeConfused.com.
Imagination is a wonderful thing. It can take you anywhere, to the beauty of the Baltic or the wildlands of Alaska. From the northern lights of Iceland to New Zealand's lush South Island. Imagination lets you dance in Buenos Aires, dine in Barbados, discover ancient Rome, indulge in new delights. Imagination can take you anywhere, but a voyage with Cunard will take you there for real. Enjoy a little extra with complimentary money to spend on board from Cunard. Conditions apply. Atoll protected.
46 years ago, Swale Heating was born. We've installed thousands of boilers, and now the process is even easier. There's no need for a household survey. Just go to swaleheating.com. Answer a few questions, we'll recommend the best boiler, then install it at a time to suit you. Rely on us to keep you warm.
ISAs, they're all pretty. But what if there was one that was more...
That's what you get from Vitality. It's an ISA, but with more oomph. Invest in Vitality ISAs or Junior ISAs, and on top of any returns, we give you bigger and bigger boosts every 5 years. Up to 15% over 25 years. Just search Vitality Invest ISA. Vitality. Positively different. Like all investments, they can go down or up, and you may get back less than you invest. Conditions apply.
Nothing beats great home cooking. But who has time these days? Starting free inside the Mail on Sunday, Mary Berry's most scrumptiously simple recipes ever. 24 pages of divine dishes you can whip up in minutes. Super speedy cakes and puds. Delicious dinners at a dash. Mary Berry's brilliant new quick cooking book. Only with this Sunday's You magazine. Exclusively in the Mail on Sunday.
Oracle Cloud helps organizations everywhere build their tomorrow today, like the World Bee Project. With bee populations falling, we could face a global food crisis. Oracle Cloud provides new insights into the reasons behind this decline. With Oracle Cloud, the World Bee Project helps to protect pollinators, people, and the planet. Find out more at oracle.com/UK. Oracle Cloud, your tomorrow today.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Donald Trump says we've done our bit. We've helped militarily crush ISIS. It's nearly all over. There are 800 people we've captured that come from France, Germany, Britain, probably one or two from Belgium as well. And you've got to take them back because we don't want them in Guantanamo Bay. Is he right to say that? Gordon on Facebook says Trump should mind his own business. The USA have interfered in Libya, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Yemen, Iran and Venezuela and many others. Isn't that enough? Gordon, what about us? What about us? You know, what about... You didn't even mention Libya there, Gordon. I mean, that was a Cameron special, wasn't it? You know, get rid of Gaddafi and leave half the country to be taken over by ISIS. So it's not just us. You know, I also get on text, the USA destroys these countries and now they want to wash their hands of any consequences. Well, in this specific case, you know, Trump would argue that the Americans have helped liberate huge numbers of people from living under the caliphate, living under a very barbarous regime. 800 terrorists arriving back from Syria will inflame populism in the EU, and the EU elections in May will be interesting, is what Tony thinks. Tony being, no doubt, the majority public opinion here that we don't want these people back is shared in France and Germany. Be in no doubt about that. I normally agree with Mr. Donald, but on this issue, I have to disagree. We have enough terrorist suspects in our country already. This time, I disagree with Donald, unless he wants to take them, of course, and he'd be welcome to them. No, he doesn't want to take them, Peter. He's made it clear they're not taking them. It's up to us to sort it out. Still, my instincts are we don't want them back under any circumstances. But there is, of course, another possible route. And a couple of you have picked this up already. Jamie on Facebook says, surely they should all be tried in Syria, the country where they committed their crimes. And I think that's a very strong point, Jamie. All the way through these last few years, I thought to myself, well, if people are going to be tried, for crimes against humanity, surely it should be done there. But what faith is there, that there's any sense of a functioning judiciary in Syria? Could this be? Is it possible that this could be something that an international court could be convened to go and do it? But once again, you go back to the problem that Joe from Wimbledon mentioned, is where are you going to get accurate witness evidence? It's not straightforward. Jennifer is a new caller from Southampton. Good morning to you.
Hello.
Good morning.
I was just thinking,
yeah.
Girl was 15 years old when she left. I've
Yes.
got teenage daughters, and you can manipulate a teenage girl to do anything. Now, if my daughter could have been told for whatever, she could have been a Kardashian, she would have done whatever she could have done to be a Kardashian. Now, we have a duty to look after that girl. Now, obviously, she's been manipulated over the internet into believing into ISIS and stuff like that. So surely we should be looking after her.
Well, Jennifer, she was manipulated via the internet, age 15, and that's certainly true. However, she's now 19. She's lived over there for the last 4 years. She is a jihadi bride, as they call them, and she wants to come. She wants to come back to this country so that the health service can look after her baby. And I guess if you're a pregnant mum, that is on a human level fully understandable. But she doesn't show, Jennifer, any remorse for her views at all. I mean, I put it to you: what if she comes back, has her child on the NHS, and a few months down the line, is busy encouraging people to commit violent and bad acts?
Yeah, and I understand that, but then bring her back and sort her out. Trial her. Let people look into her. But you cannot be angry at a 15-year-old girl for being manipulated and going over to Syria for something she thought was the right thing to do. And now at 19, she's saying, oh, hang on, maybe I weren't quite right, because people saying she's showing no remorse.
Yeah.
How do you know that?
Well, because I've seen Jennifer, okay, I've seen what she said. She doesn't regret going there. She talks about the beheaded, the beheaded head in a bin, right? And she says, this guy was an enemy of ISIS, and the reason it didn't faze me at all, I thought to myself, what would he have done to a Muslim woman? That shows no remorse at all. I mean, I put it to you, Jennifer, this woman is potentially dangerous.
Yeah, I see that. I mean, I wouldn't want to see a head in a bin, so if she's doing that, that ain't right. But she's got a mum here and a dad who I'm sure are equally, they want to get hold of that girl and sort her out.
All right.
And I just think that she's English, and I think she should come back, and I think maybe we could fix her. That's all. I just don't think we can be angry at a 15-year-old girl for making a bad decision.
Okay, Jennifer. Now, you've made that point very strongly. Can I just ask you quickly, what about the bloke aged 25 who's gone out there and fought for ISIS, who is now wandering freely around our streets?
I don't like that either. I don't like the fact that the girl went over there, and I wouldn't like the fact that a boy went over and done that.
Well, I'm saying a man. I'm saying a 25-year-old man, who should know what he's doing, has made a conscious decision to go and fight for ISIS, and Donald Trump wants us to take back more of them. Should we have them back?
Well, that's really interested in what it does. You know,
I'm losing you, Jennifer. The line's going, but you made a very strong point. And that was Jennifer speaking as a mum of teenage kids, saying, look, she was 15 years old. You know, she really... OK, you can argue when we reach the age of reason, and 15 is beyond the age of reason, but she didn't really know what she was doing. It was a human plea. Philip is a new caller from Liverpool. Good morning, Philip.
Good morning, Nigel.
So do you want to see these people come back here, Philip?
No, I don't think that we should be taking any of them back. I think, as I explained a little before, if they've committed crimes in that country, then they should be tried in that country and dealt with by their justice system. And I understand that it's probably going to be a kangaroo court, but they should be, as you just said, an international court maybe set up, or a joint court between Iraq and Syria, and have them tried under crimes from both countries. Because what they did and how they did it, the speed in which they took, you know, large enclaves of land, and the brutality in what they've done. You know, you have people leaving this country to defend innocent women and children out in Syria. You know, for what? And when they're coming back, they're being tried. So it's a big mess, really. But I can imagine that quite a lot of them people who've been caught, I can imagine they're from Belgium. Because when they were recruiting, or when they seem to be getting people over, majority of them seem to be coming from Belgium.
Yeah, I did make the point, Philip, that President Trump didn't mention Belgium, but I'm sure you're absolutely right about that. But there's also no question that a fair quota of them will have come from this country. I sometimes feel, Philip, that we turned, for many, many years in this country, we turned a complete blind eye to the growth of, you know, radical Islam, of jihadi preachers saying things that a Church of England vicar would have gone to prison for. So we have created a lot of this problem. And the one thing, Philip, that worries me is if we don't take them back, what if they freely get back into Europe and commit terrorist acts? So we've got to do something with them. Trying them there, Philip, would be, I think, the best way out. But we would have to make sure that court had an international dimension. Philip, thank you. Gordon is calling from Slough. Good morning, Gordon.
Good morning to you, Nigel. Thank you for taking my call. Yeah, a bit of a hot topic, this one, I know.
It's not an easy one, is it? And it's a funny one, Gordon, because President Trump, a lot of people who normally support President Trump don't on this one, because they don't want to see these people come back. But I do make the point that I think what Trump has said from America's perspective is right, but is it right from ours, Gordon?
I actually think that the government at the moment is showing its duty of care to the people in not having foreseen this as an obvious likelihood and actually made sufficient amendments to the law, let alone uphold the law. TPIMs. How many people are subject to TPIMs at the moment? Probably none.
Yeah.
And it's not being done effectively. You've got Sajid Javid making procrastinations and all these things into the air. It's just because he wants to be the next leader.
Well, no, Sajid Javid is going to stop them coming back, and he says, "I will not hesitate to prevent your return if you've got on fought for ISIS." But of course, it doesn't mean anything, Gordon.
Yeah. The thing I would say is, an observation I would make, is that we're abiding by international law, it seems, and the big thing is, you can't make these people state this. Well, hang on a minute. How does the law evolve? Surely we need to be challenging that and make amendments to that law, even if it be on the international stage. And maybe this is one occasion where we need to actually think about flouting that law a little bit, which is very un-British, I know, because we do it with everything else in Europe.
Yeah.
But we abide by absolutely everything. But maybe on this occasion we should turn around to the international community and say, right, this law needs changing. And this lady has chosen to make herself effectively, in other people's words, state this. But they choose that area, whether you call it caliphate, whatever you want, whatever label you want to give it. That is their state. But the fact that we don't recognise it, by our definition, she's stateless. Well, that's her own problem of her own making. Leave her there and let her be tried locally. End of.
Gordon, I think your view is probably the big majority view in this country this morning. I thank you for your call. Adam is calling from Luton. Good morning, Adam.
Good morning. How are you, Nigel?
I am well. So, is Donald Trump right about this?
Absolutely, 100% right. I'll tell you why. It's a very logical reason.
Okay.
These guys that the Americans have captured through their own efforts and spending money and so on, have basically got these guys and they don't know what to do with them. Why? Because Syria won't take them, Iraq won't take them, so America's saying, why the hell should we keep them? So it's logical. That's why they're saying it. They're saying, hey guys, these guys and not Farage to look after. It's you guys. And Trump is right. He's absolutely right.
Well, I think from his perspective, he's absolutely right, and I get that. You know, the US do not want 800 people going to Guantanamo Bay. I get that completely.
Yeah.
But Adam, if they come to our country, are we actually going to put them on trial? Will we actually put them in prison, or will they, like 360 others, just be roaming our streets?
Well, the thing is, look, why do they go there? These guys went there because, if you think about it, it's basically largely due to our failings and not being able to deal in the first place. Why the hell did these people end up going over there in the first place? They're supposed to be British citizens. We're supposed to have prevented it. We haven't prevented it. It's our mess. We have to deal with it. And Trump is right. It's your mess. Why are we spending American money, in effect?
Adam, he is 100% right from his perspective. I agree with that totally. Thank you. Lorraine says, what a hypocrite Trump is. He's on about building a wall to stop illegal activity, but insists the rest of us take in people who commit illegal activity. Yes, Lorraine, they've committed illegal activity as British passport holders, and that is the point he's making. You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC. It's now 10:30 and time for the news with Philip Chrysikos.
Donald Trump wants the UK and other European countries to take back Islamic State group fighters captured in Syria and put them on trial. The US president says the alternative is to release more than 800 of them. Passengers with Fly BMI tickets are stranded after the UK airline went into administration. Rivals blame increased competition, but the carrier says it's higher costs and uncertainty caused by Brexit is the reason. Almost 400 jobs are at risk in the UK, Germany, Sweden and Belgium. The Environment Secretary is promising all households in England will have their bins collected weekly again. Michael Gove says local authorities will receive more money to pay for the service and will require them to also provide weekly pickups of food waste. LBC weather, dry and sunny, rain in the south and west of Northern Ireland and Scotland, a high of 13 degrees.
LBC.
Nothing beats great home cooking. But who has time these days? Starting free inside the Mail on Sunday, Mary Berry's most scrumptiously simple recipes ever. 24 pages of divine dishes you can whip up in minutes. Super speedy cakes and puds. Delicious dinners at a dash. Mary Berry's brilliant new quick cooking book. Only with this Sunday's You magazine. Exclusively in the Mail on Sunday.
I'm CEO. I also make tea, I'm delivery man, I'm head of IT. When it comes to my business, I ain't half bad. I even sing jingles on my radio ads.
You need a van that, like you, does it all. The jack of all trades. A new Citroën Berlingo van with up to 1-ton payload, 3-seat extenso cab and active safety brake. Test drive the International Van of the Year 2019 at your local Citroën dealer now. Find out more at citroen.co.uk.
Citroën. John's just napping after a successful NEOP. But when he wakes up again, it won't be to an unexpected bill. Because unlike some insurers, Vitality Health Insurance includes our full cover promise as standard. So we'll pay for all his inpatient and day patient consultant fees in full. Isn't that right, John? We'll come back later.
Time to review your health insurance. Just search Vitality Health. Vitality. Positively different. Your consultant must be recognised by us and the condition and treatment eligible under your plan. Minimum monthly premiums, terms and conditions apply.
Lanes 2 and 3 have reopened between the junction 1 and the roundabout. Northbound slow from southbound.
Driving is not a game. If you tailgate the car in front, the closer you get, the less time you'll have to react. Don't be a space invader. Stay safe. Stay back. Search Highways England for more information.
Previously on Family Street.
I can't just forget what happened.
It was a stupid mistake.
I don't want to hear it.
But it needs to be said.
Oh, don't say it, Betty. I won't let you say it.
Purple Brick sold more houses more quickly than any other top 10 estate agent.
Save yourself from commisery at purplebricks.co.uk.
Independent sales data from 20CI for 12 months to April 2018, based on average time between instruction and agreement of sale. See purplebricks.co.uk for more details.
I'm a man spreading awareness about a problem many men experience, but few know how to control. Sir, what do you know about male bladder weakness?
I know it affects about 1 in 4 men over 40.
Plot twist, this guy's awareness of urine leakage is weirdly good.
But Tenor Men do a range of pads and pants you can get online.
Okay, now he's just showing off.
You can get a free sample online. My dad did.
Seriously, who is this guy?
I also know that Tenor Men happens to be one...
Okay, that's enough out of you. Tenor Men Discreet Protection. Keep control.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Well, Donald Trump says we have to face up to our responsibilities because his army have captured some British passport holders who've been fighting for ISIS out in Syria. Is he right that we've got to take them back and put them on trial in our country? But before we get back to that, I have been opposed to HS2 from the very start. Always struck me as being a just exorbitant amount of money. I always said it would come in massively over budget. I didn't go quite as far as my colleague Nick Ferrari, who does the LBC Breakfast during the week, who said, if it comes in at 56 billion, I'll pay off everybody's mortgage. So confident was he that it would run over price. But also the argument to me, I mean, I used to go to Manchester by train a lot, and 2 hours, 5 minutes from Euston to the heart of the business district in Manchester struck me, you know, if you take 25 minutes off that, I mean, so what, frankly? But today we hear that Mark Thurston, the chief executive of HS2, has described the high-speed link as a huge economic project, and he doesn't know what the true cost of it is going to be. There are new estimates that it could be 80 billion, not 56. Others think it could be 100 billion, and the bloke in charge says, I haven't got a clue. Either way, if you add up the cost of this to the 39 billion that Mrs May wants to give the EU, seems to me that we're chucking a lot of money away, that even if a no-deal Brexit led to a few short-term difficulties, this would more than cover all of it. Not, of course, that it will, because you know what? With a no-deal Brexit, as we speak, there are meetings going on, making sure that lorries can cross the continent and come here. Aeroplanes can do the same. But that's for another day. I'm sticking to, is Donald Trump right? And according to the letter of international law, well, he probably is right. But it is tempting, folks, isn't it, to think that they could and should be tried for these crimes in Syria itself, if we felt Syria, had a functioning judiciary. Is there an argument for an international court to be convened to deal with this? I think perhaps there is. Mark says to me, Trump is wrong. If we commit crimes in a foreign country, we are subject to their system of justice. She knew what she was doing and should be prosecuted in Syria or Iraq. I agree it's regrettable having to take them back, but as they are British citizens, what can we do? We wouldn't revoke British citizenship to our IRA terrorists, would we? That's why we build prisons to host criminals and terrorists. Well, the prisons, of course, are full. We may have to start building a few more prisons. Let's go to Martin, who's calling from Exeter. Martin, is Donald Trump right?
No, he's not right. And I was just saying to your colleague on the phone there,
yeah.
I'm somebody on the left who absolutely doesn't agree with him at all.
Yes.
I point out that I'm on the left because we're often seen as the ones that think, oh yeah, let's bring her back, give her a cuddle, stroke her hair and tell her everything's going to be fine. Well, absolutely not, Nigel.
Okay.
Every way from politically to economically, this has got this has got no happy ending. If we bring her back and we put her in prison, it's 35 grand a year. If we rehome her, it costs millions in police security because you'll have right-wing nuts and people like Tommy Robinson will just love this. Extremists that
point, Martin, and it's a very good point you make, because the ex-Prevent lead, Sir Peter Fahey, said that if she comes back, she will be you're absolutely right, she'll be a lightning rod for attention. She would attract the focus of extremists on both sides.
Absolutely. And then there's other things, Nigel. You say, okay, so we're going to have to rehome her. Yeah, well, we've got thousands of homes. We're going to rehome. We're going to have to feed her. We've got nurses using food banks. I understand the point about it being international law, but one of your previous callers said maybe it's time on this one occasion to flout international law. Uh-huh. We've got lots of obligations, Nigel, to our homeless, to our starving, to people who are genuine refugees. We've got countless obligations. She is not near the front of the queue.
Now, the Labour Shadow Home Secretary, Diane Abbott, has made it clear we are not in favour of making people stateless. So Diane Abbott is saying that if she returns to the country, she should be fully investigated and, where appropriate, prosecuted. Does that so you completely disagree with that, yeah?
After being a lifelong Labour voter, I don't like this current Labour Party, so I'll leave my opinions on that.
Okay, well, I tell you what, Martin, when we discuss Labour splits another time, do call again. Martin, thank you. And Martin, someone on the left there, saying, no, for once we need actually to breach international norms. We don't want these people back. And what we haven't really discussed this morning is, of course, the risk that amongst these ISIS fighters that are coming back, one or two of them decide to plot some monstrosity on British soil. And that has to be a real, genuine risk. Irene in Redditch says to me, the only reason I don't want them brought back here and tried here is because of our justice system is so weak. Well, here they get a slap on the wrist and then a house and benefits. Well, Irene, that may not be true, but it does look as though those that are currently, the 40 that are currently being held, will be held for a maximum of 10 years, a maximum, and then back on our streets. And remember, it's a sobering thought, but of the 8 people that committed those vile atrocities in Paris a couple of years back, 5 of them had come into France posing as refugees across the Mediterranean. You don't need many of the 400 already here. You just need a handful of them to decide to do something awful, and the consequences don't bear thinking about. So there is a very genuine threat here. If I felt that people would come back here, be tried and be put in prison for the rest of their lives, it might cost us money, but we might feel a bit safer. But the trouble is, they'd be put on trial here, we wouldn't find the witnesses, there wouldn't be the evidence. That really worries me. Ahmed is calling from Tower Hamlets. Good morning.
Morning, Nigel.
Good morning. So, is Trump right on this one, Ahmed?
It hurts me to say this, but I actually agree with him.
I tell you what's fascinating. I've got lots of Trump supporters saying he's wrong, and I've got lots of Trump opponents saying he's right on this issue.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a no-brainer. I mean, I know emotions are running high right now, but unfortunately, it is what it is. She is a British citizen. It's our problem, and we have to deal with it. It's just as simple as, but obviously, if she comes back, if she makes her own way, then she will obviously be questioned and find out exactly what happened, because no one knows exactly what happened. Because even the interview she had, no one's sort of seen a footage of it. It's just a voice note and a picture of her.
Yes.
So we have to find out exactly what happened. And obviously, for her to leave her parents, that was being very selfish of her, because she was thinking for her own self. But now she's coming back for her unborn kid, the safety for her kid. So she's just being selfish.
Ahmed, do you understand why a growing number of people are so concerned about extremist, violent jihad that they don't want these people back?
Of course, even I was very angry. It hurts us Muslims just as bad as non-Muslims, to be honest. And yesterday, I mean, the only way we can stop this, even who was it? The head of CIA, he was on LBC. He said the only way we can stop this by not intervening in the Middle East. Simple as.
But the trouble is, we have intervened in the Middle East. So you could argue.
This is why we've got little kids flying around Syria. That's the only reason why they're going.
I mean, I have to say, Libya to me is the clearest case of the lot. Gaddafi may have been a bad guy, but getting rid of him has given ISIS a hell of a foothold there. And, of course, so many of the boats that cross the Mediterranean, the international traffickers, they come from there too. Ahmed, thank you for your thoughts. Well, Ahmed says it's the law. It's a British passport, simple as. No-brainer. Now, Culture Secretary Jeremy Wright has just been asked on the MAR programme whether Shamima Begum's baby is going to be British.
Well, I think that is a difficult question. As you said, it's not straightforward. But what really matters, I think, is to determine what should happen instantly and urgently to her, because we do have to be concerned about the health of that baby. We have to be concerned about her health too. But in the end, she will have to answer for her actions. So I think it's right that if she's able to come back to the UK, that she does so. But if she does so, she will do it on the understanding
she's coming
that
back.
We can hold her to account for her behaviour thus far. I think that's the right way to do it.
You're not going to help her to come back. In other words, we're not going to send British officials to the camp to get her back.
Well, I think that's a very different question. What I do think is that British citizens who only have British citizenship are entitled to come back to the UK. That's a matter of international law. But as a matter of international law too, and domestic law potentially, people also have to take responsibility for their actions. And she will be no exception to that.
Right, so you can take it from that, folks, that she is coming back to this country. It seems pretty clear, although the family of the teenager who went to Syria, now they think they think that in the last few hours that she has actually given birth, which would complicate things hugely and may contradict what Jeremy Wright just said, because if the baby's been born in Syria of a Syrian father, it's kind of going to be a Syrian baby. I think that's the breaking news. We'll try and find out more as this programme develops. Interesting. The nationality of the baby may be up for debate. What is not up for debate is that Shamima Begum has a British passport and that there are people currently being held captive by Americans that have got British passport. Trump says it's our responsibility. We need to take them back, put them on trial and deal with it. I don't want any of these people coming back to our country. That is my feeling. One or two of you say maybe we should just flout international law. Surely there's some way they could be tried there, near the battlefields where they've committed these offences. You're listening to a Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC, and it's 10:45.
LBC and its sister stations from Global bring you the Global Awards 2019 with very.co.uk.
Rewarding the very best from the world of music, news and entertainment.
But who will win this time? The Global Awards 2019.
With very.co.uk.
Thank you so very much.
One huge night with live performances from Little Mix and Lang Lang. And you can have your say on who will win. Voting is now open. Download the Global Player app or have your say at lbc.co.uk. The Global Awards 2019 with very.co.uk.
Get more out of every day.
Thursday, March the 7th. London's Hammersmith event in Apollo.
Coming soon.
LBC.
It's an astounding figure. 60% of adults in the UK don't have a will. Of course, there are many good reasons to write one, including leaving a gift to charity. Cancer Research UK relies on the generosity of the public to fund its life-saving research. So pledging your support can help beat cancer for future generations.
To find out how you can make a pledge to Cancer Research UK, visit cruk.org/pledge. LBC supports this message.
Will my travel be affected when we leave the EU?
What about documents for driving? Will mobile roaming change?
Should I check my travel insurance?
You might also have questions about how leaving the EU on the 29th of March will affect you. Find guidance and up-to-date information at gov.uk/EU exit.
I know that my partner thinks that I see flowers all the time, but I don't think anyone tires of seeing flowers or receiving flowers.
Zingflowers.com. Amazing every time.
Calling all hard-working minicab drivers. Are you the very best London has to offer? Yes? Then Greyhound Cars, one of South London's oldest and most progressive minicab companies, want to speak to you. Spend less time travelling to jobs and more time earning money. With a very busy day circuit, we have high demand and are now offering great bonuses and mileage rates for the very best drivers. You could pay as low as 10% commission. Start today at greyhoundcars.co.uk.
Grubby walls, stagnant style? Paint it with B&Q. New Good Home durable coloured 2.5 litre matte emulsion is just £16. It offers the perfect balance of great quality, colours and value. So for brilliant painting products at everyday low prices, you can do it when you B&Q it.
There are two types of people in this world. Those that wait and those that do. This is for the doers. You know that luck isn't found, it's made. And here at Esme, we know that good things come to those who go and get them. That's why our business loans are simple and easy to arrange, so you can seize every day. Apply today. Search Esme Loans. Eligibility criteria and fees apply.
Oh, hi,
Hi, Sophie.
Hi.
Thanks for picking up Josh after rugby practice.
No worries.
You couldn't collect him and Ollie from paintballing tomorrow, could you?
Sure.
And perhaps a school camping trip Sunday?
Okay. Is your car in the garage?
No, but I've just had it valeted and I don't want him dirtying my cream leather seats.
Real life isn't perfect, but the Vauxhall Crossland X is perfect for real life. Crossland X. Less raw. Get real. Vauxhall. British brand since 1903.
How was my darling granddaughter's big day at school?
I drew a picture, Nanny. My teacher said it was very good. And I...
It's nice to keep chatting sometimes. And with Vodafone Pay-As-You-Go One, if you reach £1 in a day, you instantly unlock unlimited free minutes and texts for the rest of the day.
It was a picture of a giraffe, and I called him Dave.
Pay-As-You-Go One. The future's exciting. Ready? Vodafone. Use in the UK and our Europe Zone destinations. Terms and exclusions at vodafone.co.uk/pay-as-you-go-one.
Leading Britain's conversation. LBC, The Nigel Farage Show.
And we have confirmation. The lawyer for the family of 19-year-old Shamima Begum, the lady that left East London to join Islamic State 4 years ago, say they understand she has had her baby and both are in good health. So it's official. So she's not coming back to the United Kingdom to have her child. It has been born. But I've no doubt her request to come to the UK still will stand. Add to that the fact that 400 people who fought for ISIS in Iraq and Syria have come back to this country already. And President Trump saying, hey, we've captured some of your guys. They're your responsibility, not ours. Should these people come back? Is Trump right? Gosh, I don't want any of them back. I felt that way for many, many years. But international law says they're British passport holders and we're not allowed to make people stateless. Sheila is a new caller from Macclesfield. Good morning, Sheila.
Oh, good morning, Nigel. How are you?
Welcome. I'm fine. I just, you know, I do understand I do understand that we're a country that abides by the law, but I'm really scared, Sheila. We let all these people back in, even if they are tried, even if they're found guilty. They serve short sentences, and some of them go on, Sheila, to commit terrorist atrocities. That's what I'm worried about.
Me too. What we feel, because we live not far from Manchester,
yes.
I say,
yes.
Is that these people committed these crimes in Syria against Syrian people by the hundreds. And because of that, that's where they should be tried. Because if someone comes to this country and commits a crime, they're tried here. Doesn't matter where they're from, we don't send them back to their home country to be tried. If they commit a crime in this country, they are tried here. That should happen now. They have killed hundreds and hundreds of innocent Syrian people, and they need to be tried there. And what I was thinking was, at the end of the Second World War, they had like an international court at Nuremberg.
They did.
Why is the world not looking at this? Because they can come back here. Our soft justice system will do exactly what you have said.
Yeah.
It will not deal with these people appropriately because we do not have the complete evidence that that person has done what they're being tried for. In Syria, they do. And another point I want to make quickly is the young lady, as far as I'm concerned, had ISIS still been rampaging across that continent, killing people, maiming and slaughtering people, that young and being successful in it, let's call it that, in brackets, that young lady would never have even been in that camp. She'd have still been tucked up in Raqqa with her husband. The only reason she found herself there is because it's gone, excuse my language, tits up for ISIS. So she found herself in a camp.
Yeah, of course. No, Sheila, you're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. And no, you're absolutely right. And strong language for a Sunday morning, Sheila. We don't normally have that kind of thing, but
sorry,
that's all right. But I do think quite a lot of us this morning engaging with this debate, feeling that actually people should be tried, they should be tried, and maybe this international court dimension could work. Sheila, thank you very much indeed. Steve says on Facebook, to those people on the left who say she was only 15 and so didn't know what she was doing, they're also the people who want the 16-year-olds to vote in a second referendum. That's a very good point, Steve. I am going to speak to Alan, who's called from Erbil in Kurdistan. Good morning, Alan.
Hi, Nigel. Thanks for taking the call.
Not at all. So what's your view on this? Is Donald Trump right?
No. I was just sitting 15 minutes ago with an Iraqi whose brother was beheaded by Daesh.
Gosh.
I've been interviewing ISIS women and children who were sex slaves of Daesh, interviewing people who've had people murdered by Daesh. The crimes were committed here, in Syria, in Iraq, in Kurdistan. These people committed the crimes here. They should stand trial here under the laws, and the people should have justice. He started crying when I was telling him about what's going on just now. He said, "What about justice?"
Yes.
Where is the justice for us?
Yeah, well, I'm sure
I've had the Yazidis saying the same. Where is the justice for us? We've got these people screaming for her rights, for Daesh rights. Well, what about the rights of the people here? And it's not hundreds, it's thousands.
Oh, of course,
There's mass graves with thousands in them.
No, Alan.
The ideology is the big battle. Trust me on this. Now, if her family disagreed with her joining Daesh, they would have disowned her for bringing shame on the family. They didn't. She was brainwashed before she got here, same as the others. The Western ISIS are more dangerous than local ISIS. A lot of the local Daesh joined because they had to feed their families, because nobody else they couldn't. There's a lot of different reasons. Western ones came here because they believed 100%, and they still do.
Yes.
The ideology is now the battle.
And it wasn't just the internet, Alan, was it? It wasn't just the internet. You know, we've allowed this sort of thing to happen in our country. But Alan, let me ask you a question. Yeah. I mean, how long have you lived in Kurdistan?
I'm on year 3. I actually spent 2 years with the Peshmerga fighting against ISIS as a volunteer. And I'm doing a documentary.
Okay, right. Well, you're heavily
doing a documentary.
But let me ask you, Alan. And you've got your own very strong view on this, and I understand that.
Yeah.
Are the courts in Kurdistan, Iraq, or Syria are they robust enough and good enough to hold these trials?
Yes. They do need more Western support, especially in Rojava. The Kurds do need They do need more Western support. I was speaking to somebody the other day. He says, look, the only way for us to deal with this at the current time, and this is in Rojava in Syria, is basically put a fence around Raqqa and put them all in there and just fence them off. They need help and support. These people are the Kurds are the ones that fought against Daesh from day one.
Yes,
you know something? The biggest mistake ISIS ever made was attacking the Kurds. If they didn't attack the Kurds, they would have had Baghdad now.
Alan, if people were found guilty of barbarism, terrorism, crimes against humanity in the 3 countries just discussed, would they be subject, if found guilty, to the death penalty?
There's a lot of the death penalty going on at the minute, and the like her would probably get 20 years, even just as a wife. Trust me, 20 years here is a lifetime.
Okay. And what about the idea? What about the idea, if we weren't satisfied with the way the courts and prisons operate, what about the idea that some sort of international court could be convened?
That's a good idea. However, we can't have sentences of 2 and 3 years that are going on.
Sure.
We must send a signal out to... It seems to be that people... This is what is another thing. It seems to be that we seem to have this sort of thing because it's a Western one that's come across. That suddenly they've got these human rights. You know something? It was the human rights that they actually left and gave nobody here. Why should they do 2-3 years in a prison there? We all know the court's there. They're going to turn around and say, oh, the evidence coming across there is no good. Let's walk. Let them walk for free.
Well, Alan, I'm certain of one thing. That if people came back to this country and served 2 or 3 years in this country, they'd probably be just as dangerous, if not more so, when they got out. Alan, thank you. Fascinating phone call. What it is, a huge subject, and Shamima Begum, it's a case that we've all debated. She's now actually given birth to this baby over the course of the last few hours. But it's what President Trump is saying that I think really ups this debate to a much bigger level. You know, he is saying, look, we've done our bit. We've militarily almost beaten, almost destroyed ISIS on the ground militarily, but it's now up to you guys. It's your responsibility to take these people back, to put them on trial in your own country. Is he right? 0345 6060 973. Is he wrong? Because we don't want them back even if we are in breach of international law. Please, 84850. Or is it time to consider an international criminal court to be set up in Syria, Iraq and Kurdistan? Please tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC, at LBC, and of course Facebook, as you can comment there too. And in the next hour, we're going to have Peter Shilton talking about Brexit.
On your radio, on your phone, and here.
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 11 o'clock, a former head of the British Army says the UK and other European countries should take back Islamic State group fighters captured in Syria. It backs calls by Donald Trump, who is calling on the UK and other European countries to step up and put prisoners on trial in the countries they're from. The US president says if they don't, then militants could be free to, in his words, permeate Europe. General Lord Dannatt, who used to be in charge of the British Army, agrees.
They've got to come back to this country. They've got to be held while they're talked to, and if there is sufficient evidence against any of them or many of them, then they've got to be put through due process and imprisoned if that is the right thing to do.
And Nigel will continue leading Britain's conversation on that story next. Separately, the family of a teenager from London who went to Syria to join Islamic State group say they believe she's given birth in the country. Last week, 19-year-old Shamima Begum from Bethnal Green said she wanted to return home. In other headlines this hour, hundreds of airline passengers have had their travel plans disrupted after Fly BMI went into administration and cancelled all its flights. The UK airline is blaming uncertainty over Brexit and rising fuel costs, but its rivals point to increased competition. Almost 400 jobs are at risk in the UK, Germany, Sweden and Belgium, where it had operations. Travel journalist Simon Calder has updated LBC with more.
This is nothing to do with Fly B, which continues as a going concern. It's had its own financial problems, but it's recently had a cash injection. This is a small airline. It flew last year as many people all year as Ryanair flies in a day and a half.
Theresa May is pleading with Conservative MPs to unite over Brexit. In a letter, the Prime Minister urges them to put aside their differences and work in the national interest, warning history will judge us all. But the Labour Mayor of Manchester, Andy Burnham, doesn't think it'll work.
I don't believe the Tory party can be united on this particular topic. And at the moment, it feels like the Conservative Party is holding the whole country to ransom. And that can't be allowed to carry on.
NHS England is promising to renew efforts to agree a deal with an American pharmaceutical company so cystic fibrosis patients can access a life-extending drug. Orkambi is already prescribed in 10 other countries, but last July the company which makes it rejected a £500 million offer from NHS England. The Environment Secretary is promising to ensure all households in England have their bins collected weekly again. Michael Gove says the government intends to smooth out differences between councils, also obliging them to provide weekly pickups of food waste. LBC weather. Dry and sunny, rain in the south and west of Northern Ireland and Scotland, a high of 13 degrees. From Global's newsroom, for LBC, I'm Philip Chrysikos.
Welcome to McDonald's. What can I get you?
Yeah, hi. Can I get a burger with 2 beef patties separated by the middle bit of a bun? Double special sauce, onion, and lettuce with a slice of cheese, pickles, and some bacon. Thanks.
So you want a Big Mac bacon?
That is not a Big Mac.
The Big Mac range is back, now available with bacon. We call it a Big Mac, but it's up to you to decide. Available until the 19th of March, served after 10:30am. Subject to availability, participating restaurants only.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation. The Nigel Farage Show.
Well, it's been confirmed that 19-year-old Shamima Begum has given birth to a baby boy. We're told that both are in good health. And this was just put by Andrew Marr to John McDonnell.
my view is this, and it sort of deals with all these cases as well. We have to judge them on their individual merits. I know she was officially a child when she went off and joined ISIS or supported ISIS, etc. What we need to do is recognise that, but also on all these cases, we also have to do a risk assessment. And the most important thing is if we are bringing people back, we put the protections in place so the rest of society is protected from it.
And President Trump is saying at the moment that we should take back all of the ex-British fighters, put them on trial. That's a very, very big security and financial question for the UK.
It is, but we have to make sure we respond to our international duties of bringing war criminals to book, and we'll make that contribution. Now, whether that's collectively, and it's The Hague, or whether it's bringing them back here, whatever, we've got to step up to that responsibility. I'd rather they were under lock and key than they were somewhere else, potentially a threat to this country.
Well, there's John McDonnell basically saying, look, we've got international obligations and we effectively have to honour them, which is generally the view, although the Home Secretary, Sajid Javid, seemed to think that he could just sort of stop people coming back because he's this big macho figure that one day wants to be Tory party leader. Oh, no, sorry. But clearly that view, and I'm sure he won't repeat it again. So we have these obligations. Donald Trump is reminding us of them, and he's saying, look, the alternative is not a good one. We will be forced to release them. They will then permeate Europe by coming in across the Mediterranean, and he does have a point about that. What should happen? I do think the idea of an international court is perhaps quite a good one. Andy says to me on Twitter, I don't want the ISIS woman back here either. She is a danger to society, but if we flout international law, doesn't that just make us another rogue state? Given the current political situation, we can't afford to alienate other countries. Well, Steph says, this is how you deal with these people. Set up an international court and try them in Syria. And yeah, I think that is most of you think that's the right way to do things. I'm absolutely certain that if we had a whole series of trials in this country, we'd struggle to find enough evidence, and even those that were guilty would serve a tiny period in relative terms in prison and then be a danger to our society. But is Donald Trump right? Is it our responsibility? I guess legally it is, but we have to find a better way, it seems to me. Darren is calling from Lewisham. Good morning, Darren.
Good morning, Nigel.
So, what would you do with Shamima Begum and perhaps another couple of hundred ISIS fighters?
I don't think we have any choice. I think it's very straightforward.
Right.
She's a British national. She's gone abroad, committed crimes, and the authorities in that region are well within their rights to deport her back to her country of origin. That's what we would do and have done.
Yes.
It does seem to me that some of your listeners, it's one rule for us, another rule for the rest of the world. We deport and expect to have the right to deport terrorists when they come from another country to here. Why does that not work?
Wow, you say that, Darren, but actually we have terrible trouble deporting suspected terrorists, because if they're going to countries where they might not get treated well, they can use the Human Rights Act and delay the whole thing for a decade.
Absolutely, that's reasonable, because our country believes in the rule of law, and we don't export people back or deport people back to countries where they might be tortured. But that defence cannot apply here, because we're not going to torture her, are we?
I wouldn't have thought so for one moment. No, I think we're pretty safe on that score. Darren, do you understand why there are so many people saying, and people from all sides of the political divide, there are so many saying, the hell with international law, we don't want terrorists back in our country who could do terrible things?
I don't understand it at all. I think something rather nasty has happened to the psyche of this country over the last 2 or 3 years. I don't know what happened there.
Well, we don't want to get blown up, Darren.
The thing is that is our issue to deal with her when she comes back, and other terrorists when they come back. It's up to us to take.
But Darren,
to defend our security and our safety.
But people have no confidence, Darren. People have no confidence in our government. They've got no confidence in our courts. They see us as being incredibly soft on this subject.
Okay, so that's a serious problem, is it? Or is that our problem? It's our problem, and it's our responsibility to make sure that we deal with the terrorists that we grew. And it's a serious problem to deal with the terrorists that they grew. So if we allow this to happen, on our watch, right under our noses in East London, then we should take our responsibility seriously. We should take her back and others back as well. We should put them through the courts, and if we don't think our courts are up to it, it's up to us to deal with it.
And what happens, Darren?
Syrians to deal with it.
And what happens, Darren, when you and I speak in 3 or 4 years' time, and one or two of these people that have come back have committed some appalling atrocity?
Well, this country has a tradition of standing up to rule of law, even if it has implications to our security. You know, we are a mature, advanced nation. It's our responsibility to deal with her, and it's not up to the Syrians to deal with our problems, or any other country to deal with terrorists that were grown in this country. We would deal with our terrorists, and we should expect other countries to deal with theirs. And I don't see how. It's this very colonial attitude that's crept in the last few years, Nigel.
Because Darren,
It's one rule for us, and it's one rule for everybody else.
we are used as a country.
The only consistency is between these various arguments is it's good for us, not that it is fair.
Darren, we're used to external threats. We're not used historically to people with our nationality threatening to blow us up and kill us. That's what's changed. That's what's changed public opinion, isn't it?
Well, I don't know what's changed public opinion. I think what's changed public opinion is over the last few years we've taken a sort of colonial attitude to the rest of the world, and we just think, well, whatever's right for us. If it's right for us to deport, Abu Hamza, then we should do it. And if it's right for us not to allow the authorities in Syria to deport one of our terrorists back to us, then that's what we should do. The only consistency in that argument is it works for us.
Well, I suppose, actually, Darren, I wish we'd done rather more of that over the years. I think, and that's generally, again, we do want to put British interests first. We don't want to be international pariahs, but we're very, very scared of these people coming back. Darren, you made a very passionate case for doing things as we have always done them. Nigel, Trump is right. As a US ally under international law and the UK being partially responsible for this mess, well, we can't run away from that, can we? We must act accordingly. Otherwise, however we may feel, our high-sounding principles mean nothing. Adrian from Cornwall. Yeah, I don't for 1 minute doubt that actually Trump is, under international law, correct. But folks, it scares me. 400 of these people are in our country. Only 40 are currently being detained. They have been brutalised in every way. They fought in a savage war. They have been part of a machine that has committed horrendous brutalities. And now they're walking our streets freely. And who's to say what they'll do in the future? We've never had this before. We've not had effectively a group of people within our own society potentially acting as a fifth column, and that is why that Sky data poll shows over 75% of people do not want ISIS fighters returned, don't even want a 19-year-old woman who was about to give birth and has now given birth because she is signed up to the ISIS identity. Vicky is calling from Basildon. Good morning, Vicky.
Good morning, Nigel. This is the very first time I've ever rang you.
Right, well, welcome.
I've got a few questions. If you could answer, please.
No. This is not mastermind, Vicky, but I'll do my best.
I know, but they're just queries that I've got. This girl came here when she was 3 years of age. Now, is she a British subject, or where she was born in Bangladesh? We've all known what's happened with the Windrush people that have been found they've not got British citizenship. Could she be the same?
Well, Vicky, in the case of Windrush, these were admin errors. People didn't fill in the right forms, didn't register correctly, and that's why that problem occurred. No, we are absolutely certain that when they came to this country with her parents, they applied for nationality. So, yes, we are certain she has a British passport.
Right, fine. Now, she's had this baby. It's been born in Syria.
Yep.
Would that be a British subject born in Syria?
It's a very, very good question, Vicky. I don't know the immediate answer to that. She is a British passport holder. Her husband, her ISIS husband, is Dutch. We understand the baby's born in Syria. That's a very, very good question.
Well, another thing, the Dutchman will pop up soon. She'll get here, he'll pop up, and he'll want to come here. Human rights. This is getting out of hand, Nigel. They reckon there's 800 more. British subjects that have got that are in Syria.
There are 800 that the Americans are currently holding as prisoners, all right? And who's to say, by the end of all of this, there might be a couple of hundred more. Who's to say? And they're not all British. They're not all British. There are going to be French and German and Belgium mixed in among them. But there's certainly a couple of hundred more, Vicky. Yes.
Well, we've got a prison crisis now.
We do.
A prison. You know what happens in the prisons? They're full up. Where do we put these people? If we put them on trial and they go into prison.
But if they've got British passports, Vicky, I get that. But if they're British passport holders and under international law, we can't really stop them coming back. What do you think we should do? Just say no?
I think we should leave her there, because I did hear a government minister say she's got to find her own way out. We cannot send in a plane.
No, we're not doing that. We're not going to do that.
Find her way out.
But if she does find her way out, it's pretty clear to me that she will be able to come into this country.
Well, I think she should not be allowed. I mean, we are the laughing stock of the world, Nigel. We've got security don't know what they're doing. We've got Parliament in a mess. We're heading down a big hole.
Well,
if we don't put the brake on now, this country will be finished.
Well, and maybe we are partly responsible for some of it, Vicky, though. That's the only thing I would say. Thank you for your call. Now, Nick in Dulwich says, despite 400 jihadis walking the streets, we don't seem to have many attacks. The risk is hugely exaggerated. Is that right, Nick? Tell that to the people in Paris. All right? You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC. It's 11:15.
LBC.
Someone's knocking at the door. Somebody's ringing the bell.
Did you know that winning postcodes are announced every single day with People's Postcode Lottery, and only playing postcodes are entered, so the prizes are always won? It costs just £10 a month to play in all draws. Join in with your postcode to play at postcodelottery.co.uk. PPL manage lotteries on behalf of good causes. Players must be over 16. Terms and conditions apply. Please play responsibly. Be gamble aware.
Someone's knocking at the door.
Life is full of so many things. Happy things, sad things, and surprising things. You've got commuting things, typing things, planning things. With all these things, it's easy to forget you need to eat something. So open the Uber Eats app to order a sushi thing, a burger thing, or perhaps that new thing. Sit for a minute and enjoy that thing, and then get back to all your other things. Uber Eats. Get food delivered wherever life takes you. Download the app today. Available at selected times in selected locations.
Lanes 2 and 3 have reopened between the junction 1 and the roundabout. Northbound slow from southbound.
Driving is not a game. If you tailgate the car in front, the closer you get, the less time you'll have to react. Don't be a space invader. Stay safe. Stay back. Search Highways England for more information.
When you're out on the road, you need to know you can trust your brakes to keep you safe. If something doesn't feel right, it's best to get it checked. At QuickFit, we'll do a free check to make sure your brakes are working properly. And if not, we'll get them sorted. Just book online or visit your local QuickFit today and drive away happy.
In the winter price drop at Oak Furnitureland, you'll find solid hardwood furniture that's perfect for your home, delivered free and all with really great prices. So find your new look in the winter price drop, only at Oak Furnitureland. There's a store near you. Must end Sunday.
We're saying hello to 300 million patients a year. We're millions of fingers on thousands of keys, emailing, booking and rebooking. We're under desks, in the wards, and on top of everything. We're megabytes down mega cables of mega importance. We're keeping the systems running that help keep every patient well. We are IT, we are support, we are the NHS. And we are recruiting now. Search NHS support and IT jobs.
Hello, I'm John Cleese. In this week's episode of Imagine My Surprise, we're revisiting PPI. A few months ago, one of the biggest banks in the UK admitted that when they told tens of thousands of customers that they'd never been mis-sold PPI, well, in fact, they had been. So, on top of the mis-selling scandal, there's a mis-repaying scandal. Imagine my surprise. And never mind, for help from the experts, experts in getting your PPI back. Call We Fight Any Claim on 0800 355 0000.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Well, Donald Trump couldn't be clearer. You know, we've almost militarily beaten ISIS, got rid of the caliphate. We've got 800 captured ISIS fighters who come from France and Germany and Belgium and Britain, and we are not going to take them to Guantanamo Bay. They're not our responsibility. We spent enough money dealing with this problem already, and it's up to you. Over to you. You've got to take them back and put them on trial in your country, and that on the back of days of debate in our country about Shamima Begum, and she's just given birth, by the way, out in Syria, and, you know, she wanted to come back to this country. Should these people return? I personally don't think so. I think they've joined the Islamic State, and Robert from Wolverhampton takes the same view on statelessness. He says, look, the UK does not need to remove British citizenship against international law. These citizens who left against the advice they were given and declared allegiance to another state, ISIS, surely renounced their British citizenship themselves. And Robert, that's how I feel about it, although under the letter of international law that may not quite be the case. Why aren't they being sent to The Hague for their crimes, as this is the UN court? Well, that's fine. But to have any hope of successful prosecutions, you're going to have witnesses. So actually doing it in Syria, I think, is a lot more logical, seems to me. And doing it quickly. That's the other point, isn't it? Because relying on evidence as years and years go by becomes incredibly difficult. Eve on Facebook says, in this country, she'll walk free. Look at the numbers of ISIS returners that haven't been prosecuted. Eve, it just beggars belief that there are 360 people out walking our streets freely who were fighting in Iraq and Syria for ISIS. I find the whole thing extraordinary. And I know Nick from Dulwich before the break said the threat's exaggerated. Well, just needs a handful of those people to do goodness knows what. Mark is calling from Hitchin. Mark, is Donald Trump right?
To some extent, he is. I just want to clarify something, Nigel. Yeah. First of all, this thing about the individual talked about and then being British, it's not just a matter of international law. It's actually a matter of British law. Yep. And it's very important. There's a key point here you've got to remember. The reason those laws are in place, particularly the British one, is so that our government can't take exception to a certain part of Britain, you know, a group of people in Britain who are British, and then decide that they want to take their nationality away from them. That's why it's there. It's been there for thousands of years. I mean, some people might even suggest, Nigel, that, you know, next time you leave the country, they don't want you back. But, you know, that's not fair. But you've got.
Well, hang on a second, Mark. I do go to the European Parliament, and I would argue they're not. I would argue that they're enemies of Britain, but not quite on the scale of what she's been involved in. You know.
No. But the point I'm making is the law is there because it stopped government to take your citizenship away because we have free will. But you've now got a much bigger conundrum now, Nigel, which would be a very interesting question. I believe you've announced that this young lady has now given birth.
Yes, a baby boy. Yes, that is absolutely right.
Under British law, and this is British law, not international law, and I'm going with the idea that we've all identified that this lady is British by birth, which means she doesn't have dual nationality. It can't be withdrawn.
British by nationality, yeah.
Now, right. The child automatically is British. What are we going to do about the child?
Well, you say that, but what about the views of the father? I mean, you know, the father may have views on this.
Automatically, if you are a child born of a British mother outside of the UK, you are British. So therefore, we now have a young British citizen, through no fault of his own, in potential danger. What are we going to do about that? And how? And of course, that's going to be directly linked to his mother. Whatever we think of his mother, what are we going to do about the child?
I don't know, Mark, is the answer to that. I can only assume.
Well, I do. We have a responsibility. If that was a child or any other person, we'd be active. We'd be doing something, because that's what the British government is there to do, to protect innocent British people.
Well, she's not innocent, is she?
I didn't say she was. I'm not talking about her. No. I'm talking about her child.
Well, the child's her responsibility. The idea, Mark, that we would send in an aeroplane from here to Syria to get her and a new baby out and back to the United Kingdom is frankly not something that would command any public support at all.
Well, I'm sorry. I totally disagree with you. You are now holding an innocent child to ransom for what his mother may or may not have done. Because at the moment, we do live by the rule of law, thank God, in this country, and nobody has proved anything that she has done, and that's why we have the rule of law. And I know we've had issues with, certain parts of the Vote Leave campaign maybe breaking
maybe the Dutch government.
I know people love breaking laws in this country.
Maybe the Dutch government, Mark. Maybe the Dutch government will want the child. After all, the father is Dutch. The father has a say in this too, doesn't he?
Well, yeah, but we don't know who's the father. What I'm saying is the child automatically gains British nationality. It's like, we have this conundrum in this country, don't you? As you know, if you're born in Northern Ireland, for example, or you're British, you're entitled to an Irish passport. It's one of those things that we have to deal with. In this case, the child, she can quite rightly claim the child is British. What would we have done if that's anybody else, and why should the child be dealt with differently? That I've got to say.
Well, I think, Mark,
if we're saying it should be, then that questions the level of harm.
I mean, the vast majority, Mark, the vast majority of British people do not want her back in this country. Full stop.
Well, coming back to her and as you said, the people that Trump wants to throw out, he's quite rightly making the point. If they're British, they're our responsibility. Because if he does unlock the door and lets them run, which I could not believe he would, but who knows with Trump these days, I'm afraid that would cause havoc. And I'd rather it was controlled and managed. And we have to take responsibility for our citizens. And, OK, we're talking about terrorists here, but if we had a mass murderer who ran to Spain, what are we going to say? Oh, we don't want him back.
Now, there is another point, Mark, here, and this is a point that was raised earlier, and it's worth thinking about. And it was raised. It was raised originally. We had a caller on, but the ex-Prevent lead, Sir Peter Fahey, said that if she, and this is without considering the baby, but if she was brought back to this country, she'd be a lightning rod. And Andy on Twitter says to me, she and the baby wouldn't be safe in the UK. I mean, maybe this is not the right place for her to come anyway.
But it doesn't take away somebody coming out of jail who have committed horrendous crimes become a lightning rod when they're paedophiles put back in their communities become a lightning rod. But we don't remove ourselves from our responsibility.
Yeah, the difference is, Mark,
to protect that person.
The difference is that even a paedophile coming out of prison isn't on the front page of every national and international newspaper in quite the way she has been. Mark, you make an interesting point about the law and about the baby, but I assure you, if the British government went in to get them out, there would be uproar. George is calling from Walthamstow. Good morning, George.
Good morning, Nigel. I just wanted to pick up on, you had a caller earlier who was banging on about consistency. And I think it'll be consistent with historical precedent if we trialled her locally in Syria. I mean, there's precedent for it. It's what we did in the Hague trials for people who committed atrocities against Muslims in Central Europe recently.
We did, yeah.
And going back to the Nuremberg...
Slight difference, though, George. The people that were tried were generals and very high-ranking people, and it was very easy to find witnesses to what they'd said, written and done.
I'd never said it would be necessarily easy.
All right.
It's feasible. So, and talking of something really, really difficult that was delivered was the Nuremberg trials. Getting back to the local trialling of it, if there's any gaps in jurisprudence locally in Syria, they can be plugged by international stakeholders like the US, France, Britain, Russia, Turkey. So they can be helped administratively. Don't forget, a lot of this is practical. It's not just theoretical. A lot of this is...
No, George, I think it could be done. I agree with you. I think it could be done, and I think in many ways it should be done. But what do you think's going to happen, George?
Well, I don't know anymore, Nigel, about anything. I mean, I'm sorry to be boring, but I voted 2 years ago in the referendum, and I thought we were leaving the European Union. So I'm going to dodge a question.
Oh, well, that's okay. The Prime Minister says we are, so we must be. It'll all be okay, George. Don't worry. Thank you. Thank you very much. Anne says, what is wrong with us? Giving this girl superstar status is just sickening. Can we just reflect on the atrocities this group of villains have committed? I am in a rage. Tim is a new caller to this programme and he lives in Leatherhead. Good morning, Tim.
Good morning, Nigel.
Good morning.
Interesting to hear you with the last caller agreeing that this was a matter for British law. I thought you claimed that we'd abdicated all responsibility to Brussels.
Well, in many cases we have, and certainly under the Human Rights Act, Tim, which is the incorporation of EU law into UK law, we find it very difficult. We find it very, very difficult.
Let's have a Muslim that we can stir up some more hatred about. let's drive a wedge through the country again, as you've done very successfully over the last
Tim, it's called democracy, Tim. And if you and clearly on a Sunday morning you're feeling very sore on a Sunday morning. Now, do you have anything sensible to say, Tim, or not?
That is all very sensible, and it's all very true, and you know jolly well it is, Nigel. You're a complete hypocrite. You're a shard and a charlatan.
Oh, right. Tim, do you have anything constructive to say to the LBC audience?
I've said it all constructively. You are a hypocrite. You claim that...
You're a very bad loser, aren't you?
Clearly hasn't.
You're a very bad loser.
The entire country
You're very
is a loser.
sore, aren't you?
The entire country is a loser.
It must feel awful to you. Are you
12 people I've had to make...
Are you scared about us becoming independent, Tim?
I'm not. No, I shall leave the country. If it actually
will
ever
you?
happens, and I don't believe it
well,
will,
I tell you what. Well, come on now, Theresa May. We've got a very, very sore Tim in Leatherhead. He's a very unhappy man.
And corporation tax with me, along with a whole load of others.
Well, I hope, Tim, when you do, that you feel a bit happier, because clearly you're not very happy here at the moment. Thank you. Well, there we are. Nigel, we should assist Syria, Iraq and Afghanistan to set up courts to try Daesh people locally where the witnesses are. Paul, the idea that you would get witnesses to The Hague, for people who had relatively lowly positions within that army, within that organisation. I mean, frankly, that is for the birds, and it simply isn't going to work. Now, in a moment, I'm going to talk to Peter Shilton, former England goalkeeper, Leicester and England goalkeeper, record number of caps, of course, for England at football, and clearly we'll talk a little bit about Gordon Banks, but particularly going to talk to him about his views on Brexit. For now, you're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC. It's 11:30 and time for the news with Philip Chryssikos.
Donald Trump is calling on the UK and other European countries to take back Islamic State fighters captured in Syria and put them on trial. Separately, runaway teenager Shamima Begum from London has given birth to her third child in Syria as the debate continues if her request should be respected and be allowed to return to the UK. 2 men have been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder after 3 men were stabbed in central London, leaving 1 with life-threatening condition. Police were called to Oxford Street just after 3:30 this morning, where they were all found. The victims are aged 24. The Prime Minister has written to her Conservative MPs to come together and deliver Brexit. Theresa May urges them to move beyond what divides us. LBC weather: dry and sunny, rain in the south and west of Northern Ireland and Scotland, a high of 13 degrees.
This is LBC.
It's time to join the millions of people that meet happy with Zoom video conferencing. With stunning HD video, crisp audio, and instant wireless sharing across any mobile, tablet, or desktop device. But the best thing about Zoom? It just works. So ditch the distractions, join the movement, and meet happy with Zoom video conferencing. Visit zoom.us to set up your free account today. That's zoom.us. Zoom video conferencing.
Lanes 2 and 3 have reopened between the junction 1 and the roundabout northbound slope from southbound.
Driving is not a game. If you tailgate the car in front, the closer you get, the less time you'll have to react. Don't be a space invader. Stay safe. Stay back. Search Highways England for more information.
This is How to Holiday, and this is Royal Caribbean's One Big Sale. Enjoy all-inclusive cruise fares with our best ever drinks package in over 250 destinations worldwide. Book now with deposits from just £75 per person. Visit royalcaribbean.co.uk or contact your travel agent. Royal Caribbean, One Big Sale now on. Eligible staterooms on selected sailings of 6 nights or more, departing between March 1st, 2019 and December 31st, 2020. Book by March 4th. Conditions apply. At all protected.
Someone's knocking at the door. Somebody's ringing the bell.
Did you know that winning postcodes are announced every single day with People's Postcode Lottery, and only playing postcodes are entered, so the prizes are always won? It costs just £10 a month to play in all draws. Join in with your postcode to play at postcodelottery.co.uk. PPL manage lotteries on behalf of good causes. Players must be over 16. Terms and conditions apply. Please play responsibly. For Gamble Aware.
Someone's knocking at the door.
EU exit.
My business plan.
Exports.
The facts.
Leaving the EU on the 29th of March may mean your business needs to prepare for change. Even if you think your business won't be affected, it's worth double-checking. To help you prepare your business, you can find guidance and up-to-date information at gov.uk/EU exit.
Hello,
Vitality Health Insurance.
Oh, hi. Is it true if I join Vitality I get de facto 5-star rated cover, can speak to a GP 24/7, get rewarded for staying active with things like Starbucks coffee, get a little sausage dog to live with me, and you could beat my current premium by up to 10%?
Absolutely. Except one of those.
It's the dog, isn't it?
Yeah.
Time to review your health insurance. Just search Vitality Health. Vitality. Positively different. Minimum monthly premiums, terms and conditions apply.
This is LBC, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
Well, Donald Trump says we must face up to our responsibilities and we've got to take these ISIS fighters that the US Army have captured. We're debating whether you want them back in this country or whether maybe some form of international court in Syria might be a better way forward. But before we do that, it's been a week in which, of course, there's been a lot of news. There always is about celebrities, and celebrities play a bigger and bigger role in our national debate. And I'm going to be joined this morning by Peter Shilton, 125 caps for England at football, the highest capped England footballer ever, and he's agreed to come on my show on LBC to talk a bit about Brexit and other things. Peter, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Nigel.
Well, it would be very difficult not to begin by saying that goalkeepers have rather been in the news this week with the death of Gordon Banks, and I know that you knew him well and your careers overlapped in many ways. I just must ask you, Peter, what was Gordon Banks' legacy?
Well, obviously, it was very sad news for me at the beginning of the week. It was unexpected, I think, and that I've done quite a few interviews paying tribute to Gordon because I think the media feel that I was the ideal person because, he was my hero at the age of 9 and 10, watching him play for Leicester. And, he got into the England team and I became his understudy at 16. So we were rivals. And also, I followed him through into the England team. But I think Gordon's legacy is just simply that he was a fantastic goalkeeper, of his era. He worked exceptionally hard at the game. And a lot of his training, I think, resulted in that fantastic save against Pele where he never gave up on it. And that elevated him, that save, to a different level in terms of goalkeeping because it will be remembered as the greatest World Cup, if not the greatest save ever. But the other side of Gordon was that he was such a gentleman, even when I was a youngster, he always had a little word for me. I mean, he wasn't my mentor. We had a 13 trainer called George Dewis that trained me for 5 or 6 years before I joined Leicester, but he always had a good word, for me. He always could try and help me out. And although we were rivals, we became very good friends. And, that was the main thing. I think, for me, we always had a laugh together and a giggle. And I think with Gordon, he always had that sense of humour. Sorry, my bit of piece came out.
I saw that. It's okay. Well, I tell you what, there's somebody else from Leicester that we'll talk about a little bit later. But I'm very keen to talk to you, not just about football, but about Brexit and about politics. And I know you've not really been interviewed on this subject, but I've seen one or two tweets that you've put out over the course of the last year or two. So do I take it, Peter, that you voted Brexit in the referendum?
Yes, I did. And, the country had a choice to make, didn't it? And I sort of, stay in or out. And, I took the long-term view. I think as a country, the future is very important. And, we're a member of a big organisation in the EU. And who knows where that's going to go, the EU, in the next 20, 30 years. A lot of other countries could join it, it could get bigger. The Parliament changes there. They make the rules. Hold on, I'm having real problems with this now. They make the rules. And, of course, that's... we're not an independent country. We aren't governed by their rules. The immigration laws... and things like that. We've got no control over it. And I just think, it'd be best for us to be an independent country, to make our own laws in future, have control over our immigration. We're always going to have immigration and we're always going to trade with the EU. But I think with the future, it's probably better if we leave. And from a football point of view, at the moment, it might even strengthen the Premier League and make our football better because FIFA have this rule that you can't leave your country of origin until you're 18. and go to other countries to learn your trade. But with the EU, obviously, because of our association, 16 and 17-year-olds can come over and go to our academies. And also, I think because it's easier to sign players from Europe, with the transfer fees tend to go up more. So I think it would be a more level playing field.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Football.
I mean, certainly Steve Farage from Crystal Palace made the argument that actually free movement within the EU means EU players can come with no difficulty, and the bar's been set very high from around the rest of the world. So that's going to be an interesting one to watch. 2.5 years on from that historic vote, how do you feel that our politicians and our Parliament have dealt with Brexit so far?
I've got to say that, that I listened to an interview with Theresa May before the last referendum, and I was gobsmacked because she was such a Remainer. She wouldn't have Brexit any way. And, she's going to negotiate this deal, which, as far as I'm concerned, we don't get anything really from Europe, and we've got to give them 38 billion. And we're talking now about this backstop, but there's so much other about it when we were going to be in Europe if we accept this, but we're going to have no control, no say. We're going to be worse off, in my opinion. So, there's one thing I would say about we're talking about Twitter earlier, and I'd like to make this point, Nigel, is that it is freedom of speech in this country, and obviously I put it on Twitter, but there's a couple of footballers, a real good friend of mine and roommate, Gary Lineker.
We're back to Leicester City again, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He got a different view, along with Peter Reid, but Chrissy Waddle went with me, and the press tried to pick this up and make something out of it. And of course, I believe that, there's a lot of people who really don't react the right way to somebody who's got a different opinion. And Gary and myself made that clear, that we were, politics doesn't affect our friendship. We're still friends. We just got a different view. And I think that's the important message the country's got to get, because, there's a lot of people out there that are really aggressive towards people who have got a different view, and it shouldn't be that way, Nigel.
No, Peter, I think that actually is a very important message. And I try here on LBC. People ring in with a completely different point of view. We try and have a grown-up conversation, and it's very important that we do that. But one of the things that Gary Lineker has been pushing very hard for, repeatedly on tweets, is he thinks there should be what I'd call it a second referendum. He calls it a people's vote. How would you feel about us being asked to vote again, Peter Shilton?
I'd be totally against it, because, I love this country. I mean, I've played for England, as you say, many times, and, I'm a real sort of Brit, if you understand, and the old essence of a Brit. But, I know the world's changing, but you've got to have rules, and it's like having an election, isn't it? And say, for example, God forbid that Labour ever got voted in, and they had a mandate, and in 2 years that they didn't live up to that mandate. What do we say? Oh, we're going to have another election then, and I think when you have, people voted, the Remainers say people didn't know what they were voting for. People did know what they were voting for. They knew that they wanted to be independent from Europe. They know it wasn't going to be easy. They know that, it's not going to happen overnight. But in the long-term view, people wanted more control. And I think that if you look for another vote, well, why? Who says that it's going to be any different? What proof is there that people are going to vote differently?
Well, there's absolutely no proof at all. Peter, after a long career, you're somebody who's been in the public eye for, getting on for half a century, basically. Have you spoken out before on politics? I mean, during your footballing career or since? I mean, is this a bit of a first for you to talk like this?
Well, yeah, because my dad always said, don't get involved in politics. I mean, I'm coming up to, I'm sort of coming up to 70 in September, and I feel on this particular subject, it's so vital to our country, that we look to the future, not just now. I mean, some people are going to suffer, and it may be quite hard to start with, but eventually, the world's not going to fall apart. We're not going to fall apart, and we will survive, and we will be more independent. We will have more say over what we do, but we still will be friends, and with Europe, we still be friends with a lot more countries, I think. And you have to make a decision, and that was my decision.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, you're used to being someone who gets a lot of criticism because
being a goalkeeper.
Absolutely, because it's always your fault, of course, if things go wrong, and you're used to that. But of course, having given your views here today, you will get a few people firing back at you on Twitter, etc. Can we expect to hear more of Peter Shilton's views of the world over the next couple of years?
Well, if I believe strongly in something, I don't believe in just talking for the sake of it. But, I as I say, I'm a true Brit. I've got views, and if I've got views and I feel strongly, I'll speak out. I'm not going to start getting in the limelight just for the sake of it, making comments about everything. But certainly, maybe that's the case. I mean, we'll have to wait and see on that. But I've got enough with Brexit at the moment. I mean, I've put a few tweets on, and of course, you get, the majority of people are terrific. You get, people coming on just putting like, how can 5'3" Maradona out jump you? And I thought, well, that's nothing to do with Brexit, is it?
As I say, you've been used to criticism over the years. Peter Shilton, thanks ever so much for joining
Pleasure,
us
Nigel.
this Sunday
Keep
morning.
up the good work.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, that was one really important message there, I thought, from Peter Shilton, who, as he said, is not used to coming on and talking about political affairs. But it's this point that he and Gary Lineker have diametrically opposed opinions, but you know what? They played football together, they roomed together when England were out on tour, and they're going to stay friends together despite the fact they have diametrically opposed views. And I think that is a hugely important message. If that's the only thing people remember from this Sunday morning show, it's a really important one. We live in a democracy. Our forebears fought and sacrificed for us to be like this, and I think that's really important. You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC, and it's 11:45.
Coming up at 12 on LBC, Majid Nawaz.
The Queen and other senior royals will be evacuated from London in the event of riots triggered by no deal. Is no deal still better than a bad deal?
Majid Nawaz on LBC.
How refreshing is it to know that when you're thinking about remortgaging, you can find out if you could borrow what you need straight away without affecting your credit score. That's why at Barclays, we'll let you know with an online agreement in principle from the comfort of your own home. We're refreshing and reshaping the way we do mortgages to make them easier. Search Barclays Mortgages. Let's go forward. T's and C's apply.
Life is about sharing those magical moments, and food shouldn't be any different. For over 35 years, Marouche has been perfecting this experience with their delicious food, warm hospitality, and live entertainment. Authentic Lebanese cuisine made the traditional way. Marouche, your family restaurant. Book now at marouche.com.
Block management. Two very simple words. But what do they actually mean? Well, there's budget approval for starters, then service charge invoices, health and safety paperwork, cleaning, gardening, maintenance, inspections, contracts, insurance, emergency call-outs, and a whole lot more besides.
So for complete block management solutions, just remember 3 simple letters: ABC. ABC Estates will take care of all your day-to-day management, leaving you as happy as Larry. See abcestates.co.uk or call 0800 888 6688.
It's Flavour of France Week at Lidl, so we've partnered with Jet2 City Breaks to give you the chance to win a city break for 2 to Nice. So your shopping trip might go from this to this. Bon appétit. Lidl. Big on quality, little on price. See lidl.co.uk/Jet2 holidays for details. T's and C's apply.
Go anywhere. Do anything. We've got you covered. 5 years warranty, 3 years free servicing, and 5 years roadside assistance available on the entire Jeep range. And from only £169 per month and 0% APR on the new Jeep Renegade. Jeep, born to be wild. 5 years or 75,000 miles warranty. Finance offer on Renegade Sport, 37 months. Customer deposit £5,900. Optional final payment £6,800. 15,000 miles per annum. PCP sales until 31st March 2019. Subject to status. T's and C's apply. Jeep Financial Services.
Lanes 2 and 3 have reopened between the junction 1 and the roundabout northbound slow from southbound.
Driving is not a game. If you tailgate the car in front, the closer you get, the less time you'll have to react. Don't be a space invader. Stay safe. Stay back. Search Highways England for more information.
Shall we upload a photo of us with a flamingo?
No.
What about a photo of the Stirling Ea deserted beach?
No.
We have to share one of us next to this beautiful lagoon.
Stop it, give me that phone. There are many ways to keep the Algarve and its hidden gems your little secret. But only one way to fly. Fly British Airways from Gatwick to Faro from £39 each way based on a return fare. Availability and dates are limited. Conditions and booking fee may apply. For more details, see va.com/Gatwick.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC.
In line with the civility that Peter Shilton talks to Gary Lineker with, despite their differing views, we learn in today's press that one of Britain's leading girls' schools have hired debrettes to teach their pupils how to avoid the pitfalls of modern life. And of course, one of those involves talking politely to someone who has a different view on Brexit. And the advice is you should put yourself in the other person's shoes rather than go head to head and try to understand the experiences that have led them to that position. So perhaps we need a little bit more of that in our public life. Lots of passion with the debate because, hey, it really does matter, but a little bit less perhaps of the personal hatreds, too much of which we are genuinely seeing. We're going to go back and talk about Donald Trump, who says that we've got to face up to our responsibilities. We have a legal responsibility to take back the ISIS fighters, the British ISIS fighters that his army have captured. And that, of course, on the back of Shamima Begum, who's been trying to come back to this country and who's now this morning given birth in Syria. Richard is calling from Bermondsey. Good morning, Richard.
Hello, Nigel. Thanks for taking my call. It seems to me that this awful woman is very, very conveniently hiding behind international law, and I think somebody like Donald Trump should be perhaps lobbying to change international law. There are lots of countries that break international law all the time. Countries like Israel, Saudi Arabia, Russia, China. They don't seem to get the wrath of Donald Trump. Whereas potentially, if we allow people like this back in our country, and even back in our prisons, where she'll end up radicalising other so-called vulnerable.
That's a great. That's a huge
girls.
risk. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then perhaps we should issue a law that defines the protection for our own people, and as I say, and start lobbying these international law treaties, because they're behind the curve, aren't they? We've got challenges now that they wasn't really designed set up for. And we've got to protect our own people at whatever cost.
Trump's got some other issues here, Richard, too. You know, one of which is NATO. When of the 28 countries that are members of NATO, I think only 6 currently pay the 2% of their GDP that they should to be members of that club. So this is a very consistent theme with Trump. That is that America pays, America involves itself, and you guys need to step up to the plate because we're kind of more than doing our bit. And I understand that. Richard, I think when it comes to international law, I think there is a feeling from many, many people that this is one occasion when maybe we should just flout it. But isn't the truth that it's very unlikely that the British government would do that?
It is very unlikely, and in that scenario, then perhaps we need internally to start putting provisions in place. UKIP have a policy of keeping radicalised Islamists separate in prisons from other inmates to prevent their radicalisation of other prisoners. Now, I mean, that's a perfectly common sense policy. I mean, that should have been done years ago. It hasn't, and we've got a growing problem, and we've got a growing number of Islamists coming back here from countries where they've committed God knows what acts of terror.
Barbarism.
And they're walking amongst us.
Yeah, well, Richard, I just say, that's what worries me. The fact that so many have come back, that so many are freely walking our streets, that so few have been detained, and yeah, compounding upon that worries me very greatly too. Richard, thank you very much indeed. Nigel, if we take them back and send them to prison, that is one of the biggest breeding places for extremists. We are creating the enemy within, and of course we should remember that the Westminster Bridge terrorist was somebody who had a history of crime but was radicalised in a British prison. So that point, I think, is pretty powerful. Alex is calling from County Derry. Good morning.
Nigel, you've just really covered the point I wanted to speak about.
Oh, sorry.
You have. Well, as you say, you bring them back. If they're walking the streets, like you said, come out of prison, and they're back to square one. You couldn't trust these people out of your sight. They're very dangerous, but and I certainly wouldn't have her back. And I'm wondering at whose cost it would be to bring her back. The government? The taxpayer?
Well, the government have said that they're not going to send out search parties to find her and physically transport her back to the United Kingdom. But they've also said, Alex, if she presents herself at whether it's Heathrow Airport or Gatwick or Dover or whatever it is, that clearly she's a British passport holder and she would be allowed to come in. I sort of thinking out loud here, Alex, but I wonder, now she's given birth to the baby, whether there might be calls now for us to send a plane to get them. I don't know.
Well, why? The baby's hopefully safe and sound, born wherever she chooses to live. You know what? I think that's just to take benefit from the NHS to some extent, to a large extent, with this baby and everything. Look, wonder where her parents were in all of this when she was 15 or whatever age. Was her parents involved, I wonder? Did they have no control by saying, no, you're not going? And if she insisted, you had the police because she was underage. They could have stopped her going. Had the parents no responsibility, or did you have any parents?
No, there are parents, Alex, and of course they are now saying, we need to be merciful and let her back into the country. Alex, do you know something? It is, I'm trying to play devil's advocate on this, it is possible that, a group of 15, there were 3 of them.
All right.
There were 3 of them that went. It is possible that a group of 15-year-old girls met somebody who was preaching in this country, who frankly shouldn't have been here, who put some poisonous ideas in their head, all of which were confirmed by the internet. So, it's easy to blame parents when teenage kids do things wrong, but it's not always necessarily their fault. But the question is, Alex, she's now 19, and she shows no remorse for what she's done. And that, above all, you can't issue forgiveness, can you, to people unless they repent of what they've done.
Yes, and the repentance I would be cautious about in any case.
Well,
their background.
I just would like to hear a bit of repentance. Alex, I hear none, and you're quite right, and your view is the majority view, and I thank you. Daniel is calling from Enfield. Good morning, Daniel.
Oh, hello, Nigel. What is going on here? This woman's gone off. She's given herself to ISIS, and we're welcoming her back. Have we gone soft in the head or something?
Oh, very, very soft, Daniel, yes.
What happens if she disappears? She comes back and she disappears from the security that we're going to be paying to monitor her, and then she commits a massive terrorist attack. Then what? All the libtards are going to be crying their little tears, are they? Is that what's going to happen?
Well, Daniel,
what I don't understand is, I just want to say one other thing. What I don't understand is, why is the media, most of the media, sound like they're trying to soften us up to this and her? This is what it sounds like. I'm wondering if they're planning to turn her into the next female Anjam Chowdhury and put her on the radio, put her in the media, give her a platform so she can tell us we're all infidels, death to the West. That's probably what's going to happen.
Well, I don't think national media is going to allow that, Daniel, to be honest with you.
It happened before, mate. It happened before. They did it before.
I don't think that's going to happen. But here's the point, Daniel. Here's the point, that both the Labour and Conservative parties feel obliged, because of international law, to allow her back and indeed to follow Donald Trump's instructions. That's the real reason for this, isn't it?
Yeah, but surely it's almost like we're putting their worries and concerns, ISIS is over ours. It's like we're almost, to think this country went through 2 world wars. Imagine we went through a world war now. We just waved the white flag, wouldn't we? That's our mentality now.
Well, I think we're pretty weak.
It's unbelievable.
Daniel, I don't want her back in this country.
Well, I don't want. Most people don't. That's the disconnect between the people and the political class. That's why we have what we have now. That's what we see. Because the people say one thing, the class do a completely the opposite. HS2, we could reel off a load of things where the people are not listened to, and that's why we have Brexit. That's why we have this discontent within the society, because they don't listen to the people. What's the point of politicians? What is the point? Why don't we just get them out and put you in power? Why don't we just do that? You're a populist. You tap into what people, you know what I mean? I don't agree with a lot of things you say. I do agree with certain things, but you know, you're a clever man. You know, tap into the populist view. You know, most people in this country don't want that woman back. You know,
I do.
How to play the game.
I do. Daniel, tell me, are you always this fired up on a Sunday morning?
I'm just excited to talk to you, mate.
Well, there you are. Well, you've put on quite a show, I have to tell you, and very, very passionate. Daniel, thank you. Huge passion there from Daniel, and it was interesting, wasn't it, his last point about the disconnect between the political class and ordinary folk. What is very clear, you know, through Sky data polls and everything else, is the vast majority of people do not want these fighters, these ISIS fighters back, that Donald Trump insists that we stand up to our international obligations. So it's not easy. I'd love to think we could find the solution of a court that heard these people out there where witnesses were available. I don't want them back either, I have to say, but we do have this little thing called international law. And I'm going to finish on this point from Marcel from Gloucester, who says, Nigel, I listen to everyone's analogy on Brexit. Well, here's mine. The referendum was like the FA Cup final. Both sides played their strongest team. Both sides put in some hard tackles, but in the end, Leave won 1-0, fair and square. Now it's time the Remainers should step aside and let the Leavers pick up the trophy. That's Marcel's view. Thank you. I'm going to be back tomorrow evening at 6. At 3 o'clock this afternoon, it's Ian Payne. But up next, it's Majid Nawaz.
Thank you, Nigel. Coming up, suicidal children are being forced to wait months for a mental health referral as campaigners warn that a child should not have to die before the system was overhauled. Are we still failing to take mental health seriously? Before that, neo-Nazis are getting younger and more violent in the UK as teenagers are drawn into disturbing movements. Some are as young as 13 years old. How can we best safeguard children from extremist groups? But first, last year, the Home Secretary Amber Rudd had to resign after the Windrush scandal. Today, the Home Secretary writes he will do everything to prevent